Elon Musk abandoned California and moved SpaceX to Texas in 2024. That single decision triggered a $13 billion economic boom in South Texas. Boca Chica went from retirement village to Mars launchpad almost overnight. What did Texas give Musk that California never could? Was it just tax breaks and looser regulations, or something that could reshape America's entire space future? Let's find out on today's episode of New Space Review. For years, SpaceX called California home, the state where Musk built his empire, where Falcon 9 first took shape, where the impossible became routine. But by 2024, that relationship had completely broken down. California's regulatory machine had become SpaceX's biggest enemy. Environmental reviews stretched into months. Launch permits sat in bureaucratic limbo. Every breakthrough meant navigating layers of agencies that seemed more interested in slowing progress than enabling it. The FAA, EPA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they all turned Starship testing into a waiting game Musk refused to play. So he left, took Tesla with him, Boring Company, X, the whole operation. The message was clear: innovation doesn't wait for permission. Now here's where things get interesting. Between 2024 and 2026, just 2 years, SpaceX dumped $13 billion into South Texas's economy. Not the whole state, South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley region that most Americans couldn't find on a map, suddenly became one of the fastest-growing economic zones in the country. Think about what that actually looks like on the ground. Boca Chica went from a handful of retirees to a 24/7 aerospace hub. Roads that barely handled weekend traffic now carry specialized equipment daily. Hotels that used to struggle during peak season, booked months in advance by engineers, suppliers, and space tourists from every continent. The tax revenue alone, $35 million in indirect taxes, directly funds schools, emergency services, infrastructure projects across the region. That's not corporate welfare. That's a company rebuilding an entire regional economy from scratch. And here's what nobody's asking. Could any other company have done this? Could Blue Origin pull this off? Boeing, Lockheed Martin. Could they transform a forgotten corner of Texas into a global aerospace destination in just 24 months? The answer's pretty obvious. But money's only part of the story. SpaceX created 24,000 local jobs, not positions filled by California transplants, local jobs. 4,000 of those are full-time SpaceX positions, and 70% are filled by South Texas residents. Musk's target? 100% local staffing by 2026. This isn't the typical Silicon Valley playbook where companies airlift talent and price out locals. SpaceX is deliberately building a workforce rooted in the community. Many of these roles don't even require 4-year degrees. They prioritize technical skills, hands-on experience, continuous training. For a region that historically ranked among the weakest economies in the United States, this is generational change, and it goes deeper than employment numbers. SpaceX has brought on over 350 local suppliers since 2024. Machine shops, fabrication companies, logistics providers. Some existed before SpaceX showed up and adapted their operations. Others were founded specifically to serve Starbase. Local supply chain spending jumped by $147 million, embedding SpaceX's operations deep into the regional economy instead of shipping everything in from outside. That creates something crucial: commitment. When you build your supply chain locally, you're not just passing through, you're staying. Which brings us to the political side of this equation. And this is where Texas really separated itself from California. Governor Greg Abbott didn't just welcome SpaceX, he went to war for it, publicly. When federal agencies threatened to bury Starship in environmental reviews and launch delays, Abbott made his position crystal clear. I will do everything in my power to support Starship launches from Boca, Chica. That wasn't political theater. That was a governor declaring Texas would fight federal overreach to protect its aerospace future. Compare that to California. Where California agencies created obstacles, Texas leadership removed them. The FAA, pressured by state-level advocacy, reformed the licensing process. Environmental agencies reduced the frequency of reviews that had previously frozen testing for months. Starship went from a program trapped in regulatory purgatory to one launching at a pace that keeps China and Russia scrambling to catch up. But Texas's advantage runs deeper than politics. No state income tax saves corporations billions compared to California's crushing rates. Streamlined regulatory processes, cost of living where engineers can actually afford houses on salaries that barely cover rent in LA or San Francisco. Texas didn't just offer SpaceX land to build Starbase, it offered partnership. In 2023, the state established the Texas Space Commission and Texas Aerospace Research and Economic Development Federation, organizations explicitly designed to support companies like SpaceX, staffed with people like former Starbase director Kathy Luders. This is what real alignment between government and private industry looks like. Now let's talk about what California actually lost here, because it's staggering. SpaceX isn't just another tech company. It's the only private entity capable of launching American astronauts to orbit. It dominates the global commercial launch market. It's building the rocket NASA's betting on to return humans to the moon. And California let it walk away. Why? Because the state chose process over progress, bureaucracy over breakthroughs, compliance over competition. Every month SpaceX spent waiting for environmental clearances was a month China's space program gained ground. Every delayed Starship test was a win for Beijing's ambitions to dominate cislunar space. California will feel this loss for decades. The jobs, tax revenue, technological prestige that now belong to Texas could have revitalized the Golden State's aerospace sector. Instead, California's watching from the sidelines while Texas becomes the undisputed capital of American space innovation. But this story isn't all triumph. SpaceX and Texas are facing challenges that could derail everything they've built. Launch cadence is the first pressure point. Current approvals allow 25 launches per year, with landings at roughly double that rate, and both numbers are climbing. Supporting that tempo requires infrastructure that can scale without overwhelming local communities. Roads, ports, utilities, logistics networks, all handling continuous heavy traffic and oversized hardware movements. These systems need to be built ahead of demand, not scrambled together after problems emerge. Then there's workforce growth. As thousands more employees relocate to South Texas, demand for housing, healthcare, education, public services will surge. Long-term success depends on coordinated planning between SpaceX, local governments, and the state to build actual communities, not just industrial zones surrounded by inadequate infrastructure. Environmental concerns haven't disappeared either. Despite strong state support, impacts still need managing through clear standards and transparent oversight. The recent debate around Starship Flight 7 showed how quickly things can escalate when communication breaks down. Rapid population growth strains social services and public safety, requiring serious joint planning. Here's the reality. Engineering Starship to reach Mars? That's the easy part. The hard part is building the political, economic, and social infrastructure to sustain a program this massive for decades. Technology alone doesn't win space races. Nations win when private innovation and government support move in lockstep. The SpaceX Texas partnership isn't just a business deal. It's a blueprint for how the United States maintains space dominance in an era of intensifying global competition. China's pouring billions into its space program with a single unified vision. Russia, despite economic struggles, keeps advancing. Europe's coordinating across borders to stay relevant. The US still leads, but that lead is shrinking. And America's advantage has never been centralized planning. It's been unleashing private sector innovation with smart government support. SpaceX and Texas show what that looks like at full scale. SpaceX delivers economic growth, technological breakthroughs, thousands of high-skilled jobs. Texas provides regulatory clarity, financial incentives, political backing to operate at unprecedented speed. When those forces align, rivals don't stand a chance. When they clash, like they did in California, innovation slows and competitors close the gap. Texas gave SpaceX what California never could: real partnership. Not just tax breaks, political backing, regulatory clarity, freedom to innovate at full speed. California lost $13 billion and 24,000 jobs by choosing bureaucracy over progress. The lesson? Nations that empower innovation will dominate space. Those that suffocate it will watch from the sidelines. Hit like, subscribe to New Space Review, and click the video on screen. Something bad happening with NASA moon mission. Only SpaceX Starship can save. Thanks for watching. Keep looking up.